attack position and switch your deflectors on. It is time for another episode of Red 5 Standing By. I am one of your hosts, Jedi Master Ekum Newhouse, and with me, as always, is my good friend and yours, Jedi Master Johnny D.
Hey, everybody, and hello, Master Newhouse. Thanks for having me, and thanks for joining.
Yes. Today we'll be talking about three episodes of The Acolyte. So we'll get our analysis, our theories, our breakdown of things that we find interesting, and a bunch of other cool stuff. So get ready, because here we go.
Yes, get ready for another exciting episode of Red 5 Standing By. All right, Mr. Newhouse. So, yes, thanks for joining. Thanks for hosting. So, yes, you're going to take us through 3 episodes of The Acolyte, which, yes, that was definitely a lot of Star Wars that we just had to get through over the last few weeks, and that we're going to have to get through tonight. But yeah, looking forward to talking to it. Definitely lots of interesting things in the last few episodes, that's for sure. Yeah, so take it away, Newhouse.
Yeah, like I say, lots of things to talk about. 3 episodes. One of those episodes had probably some of the coolest lightsaber fights I have seen since the prequel trilogy. So we're going to break them down. I was kind of going back and forth in my head, Master Johnny D, about how would be best to tackle this. I think we are going to... I want to try and go episode by episode, just because there is so much, and I think we'll get lost if we just start going on tangents.
Well, tangents will happen, but yes, we should do it episode by episode. I agree.
But before I even get into the episodes, I got a question for you, which I'm assuming you know the answer. Maybe you don't. Maybe I don't. But what's the definition of an acolyte, and what's the difference between an acolyte and an apprentice? This is something I've been wondering. I mean, I didn't really even think about it when the show was announced. And I mean, here we are 6 episodes in, and I'm actually asking myself, why the distinction? What's the difference? So can you tell me, what is the definition of an acolyte, and how is that different from an apprentice?
Well, as you well know, I know many, many random facts, but that is not a random fact I know. I don't, I've never heard the word acolytes really that much before. So I don't know the answer to that. But through the power of the internet, which I have at my fingertips, I can look it up right now what that word means. Because that is a great question to us. That is a great question.
Right.
So let's go through all here and see how the audience rating is not so good on the Acolyte according to Google. But we'll get into that a little later.
Well, since you put that out there, I'm just going to state that it was at 24% before the first episode even dropped. So
it's a review.
So
that's
review
like
bombing. It's review bombing because it's the person who created the show is LGBTQ2, so it's going to get all of that hate regardless of whether it's good or not. So despite that, yes.
So according to the Oxford Languages, which is where the definition comes from, it's a person assisting the celebrant in a religious service or procession. So it's like in a religious. I think it has like religion. It's kind of like a little bit more religious than the straight up apprentice, which is kind of like more of a utilitarian. I think kind of like definition, sort of like they're the Jedi they're more. I mean, they still have a religion, but I think they're kind of like a police agency as well, a military. Like there's that. While really, as we've seen in this show, we have really like somebody. I think that he refers to the Sith as like he wants to grow it as a religion, kind of. I think is sort of the sense I'm getting. I can't recall the actual dialogue, but I think that's the sense of what he's trying to do, right? The villain that we now have gotten to know much more these last 3 episodes.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that. Okay, I need you to break that down for me one more time exactly. An acolyte is a follower of what was a follower?
Well, it says a celebrant. No, assisting the celebrant. I don't know what a celebrant is. A celebrant, I'm sure, is like a leader, like the priest or something, right?
Right.
So it's basically an altar boy, I guess, might be an acolyte, something like that, or whatever, like an assistant priest, whatever you have in more elaborate religions, right, that have more elaborate processions, right?
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Like that actually kind of makes me because as we'll get into it, and as you're, if I mean, I'm sure anyone that's listening to this is watched the 3 episodes of The Acolyte. So I mean, one of the big questions is, has this
Well, if you haven't,
character
there's going to be spoilers. Red 5
spoilers?
standing
But
by. Spoiler alert.
yeah, okay. Spoiler alert. So Kumir, who is revealed to be what we assume is a Sith. So
Yeah, I
the
think
question is, has he been the master or has he been the apprentice? And
good
if he's
question.
looking to get
Good
an
question.
acolyte, to me that would mean that he is the apprentice and not the master, because the master would want an apprentice and the apprentice is not allowed to have an apprentice, but maybe the Sith rule of two would allow them to have an acolyte,
Yeah, I don't know.
right?
Have they actually mentioned the word acolyte yet? I thought they did.
No.
No, they haven't.
uh,
Okay.
uh, okay, I'm don't take my word for like to be the be all end all, but I don't think we have heard the word the acolyte. I did take some. I have 6 pages of notes that we're going to go through, and a lot of them are quotes. So maybe I did actually write that.
All right. Well, we
Let's
should
get
probably
into
move
it and
on
let's
then.
find it.
If we have six
Yes.
pages of notes and not spend all our time dwelling on the word acolyte, because
No.
I'm
Okay.
sure it's
So we said
riveting. I'm sure it's riveting podcasting. But
right.
yeah.
Well, I I'm just amazed that we're 6 episodes in, and it's never crossed my mind, and I haven't seen anyone else out there floated either. Anyone talking about an acolyte or an apprentice and all of that. But yeah, let's get into it. So the first episode we're going to talk about is episode 4. It is titled Day. Now I am going to bring back something else I had said before, because after the first 2 episodes, which had dual titles, I don't recall off the top of my head exactly what they were. But I remember that they had dual titles, and then the third episode did not. The third episode was simply titled Destiny. So I kind of had a theory that the first 2 episodes, because they had dual titles, it was like because you're getting the perspective of both Osha and her sister May, that maybe that's where they were going. So, but then when the episode 3 was called Destiny and episode 4 was called Day, I was like, okay, you know what? That doesn't mean anything. But then episode 5 is called Night.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so 6, they are back to the dual titles, which is Teach/Corrupt. So today we're going to talk about episode 4 Day, we're going to talk about episode 5 Night, and we're going to talk about episode 6 Teach and Corrupt. Now episode 4 and episode 5, we're going to go into it kind of sequentially, but I just want to say I feel like this was one episode. I feel like this was just one episode which would have had the dual title of Day and Night, but because they are making a TV show and not a movie or a series of specials, that they split those 2 episodes, or split that one episode into 2, because the episodes have both the same writer and the same directors. Episode 4 and episode 5 were both directed by Alex Garcia Lopez, and they were both written by Claire Kitchell and Core Adana. All right.
Yeah. Well, I
Uh,
think that makes sense. I think that makes sense. I did like how they did have the split though, because I felt like I liked the ending of the fourth episode. I mean, I kind of liked the episode. I thought it was cool how they had some great shots of like the planet and them wandering around. I mean, I like seeing people wandering around stuff. I like locations. I like geography. I like the ending. I thought the ending was pretty cool. How they just showed in a tight way how powerful this Sith guy is. Where he does that move and he causes like the total like big force blast. I was like, wow, that's cool. And then it ended. I was like, okay, cool. The show means business now. So I liked it. I liked how they kind of ended on a kind of cool cliffhanger. So that was cool.
yes.
But yeah, I mean, I see that maybe they could have thought it was going to be one big episode, but I thought it was a great choice to split it up. I liked it kind of, it had a cool cliffhanger, and I was excited for the next episode. Of course, then when the next episode happened, it did deliver with some pretty cool
Yeah.
action, right?
Yeah. No, I do think originally this was conceived as like a 6 episode series, and that they were like, no, let's stretch it out to 8, probably just because they needed to fill the content. And we also know that since Chapek left, and who came back to Disney? Who's the Bob? I know it's a Bob. Bob, who's the guy that runs Disney?
Oh, the CEO?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Well, I
Bob,
know what
Bob, rich fat cat guy.
Yeah, when he came back, he was like, "Yeah, we're spending too much money on Disney Plus content," and so he canceled a bunch of things.
Oh, the
And I
guy that
think
they eventually kicked out was like that. Yeah,
no, Bob went because Bob Chapek was the guy that was greenlighting everything. Bob
Oh.
Chapek was the guy where he was greenlighting all the Star Wars, all the Marvel shows, and
Oh,
then
I thought he was making cuts, and that's why. Because I thought the other guy got
no,
removed.
no, no. It was when they brought because there was the guy that ran Disney for all of those years, and then like he stepped down in like 2017 or 18, right when Disney Plus launched. He stayed on until Disney Plus launched, and then Bob Chapek was the guy that took over for him. And so from 2018 till 2022, 23, he was the guy that was greenlighting everything and
Yeah.
like
Bob Iger is the main guy. That's
and but yes, and so they brought back Bob Iger, and Bob Iger is the guy that pumped the brakes and was like, no, 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 we're making too much because it was not only that it was too much, is not everything was being successful. It wasn't usually Disney's like, anything they
yeah.
make is gold.
A bit of quality control or level of a
Exactly.
bar of quality that let's try to hit, and let's try
Yeah.
to not just
So
spend a bunch of
yeah.
money and not care about quality. Right.
So I think what happened was he came back and not as many shows were being produced, but they still need to have weekly content on Disney Plus. So the decision was made to split 6 episodes into 8 episodes. But regardless, that doesn't matter. And you are right, my friend. The way that episode ended was awesome. Did you catch the homage? As soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh, this is so cool! This homage." Because I know we said we're going to go through this sequentially, but what Johnny D is referring to when the bad guy comes down slowly from behind and he's floating, and then the camera you're getting a shot of the character Osha, and behind her you see his figure gently float down, and then when you
It
get
looked
the
familiar.
full on shot,
It's felt
it's
familiar,
total
but
Alien. It was a
oh yeah,
homage
yeah,
to Alien. It was
yeah. I
a
guess.
homage to the scene with the alien coming down behind the guy right
Yeah,
before he
yeah.
gets killed. And when he turns around and he sees that silver smiling grin of an alien, which is just what the
Oh yeah,
mask
yeah,
of this character is, right?
yeah.
Total homage. And then the 5th episode starts with a homage as well to another one of my favorite Star Wars franchises. Did you catch that homage?
No, not that I can remember.
I'll get to it when we get to it. Okay. So episode 4, Day, starts on Kofar with Master Kalnaka. Master Kalnaka is the Wookiee Jedi that we know he was one of the 4 that were on the planet with the witches at the start of the show. So they're setting up him. The thing that I found kind of curious there was as they were showing him coming home, and then they showed his home, and it was really cool how he had this like little ecosystem built into his ship that had crashed there, or whatever his ship was doing there. Like you saw running water, and you saw the plant life was growing, but he also had all of this like the thing that May has tattooed on her forehead. He had images of that drawn in his abode. Did you
Yes,
catch
yes.
all that?
Well, I remember them basically paying attention. Like they basically made sure you saw that. And I was like, well, this must be important, but I couldn't fill in the blanks. So I was like, I bet your new house will really get something out of this. So yes, I'm curious to hear more about what that all means and why they showed us that.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, we'll get to that. Let's just do that now. So we know that the Jedi told Master Kelnak that they stationed him there. Because when it was discussed about earlier, or maybe it's in this episode. No, we'll go through the way I have my notes done, just so we don't get completely lost. Okay, so that's the establishing. Then we go to Coruscant. We get a quick scene of some Padawan training. They're not using the live lightsabers. They're using the wooden sticks. It's Jecki, Saul's Padawan. She's the character that we recognize there. Training finishes. Her and Osha say their little goodbye. She's surprised that Osha's leaving. And then she asked if she'd said goodbye to Master Saul yet, and she said no. Then we go back to Kofar, and now we see the arrival of a ship landing on the outskirts of the jungle. Right away, I was like, whoa, that kind of looks like Darth Maul's Sith Interceptor from Phantom Menace. It's different, but like the architecture of the ship is kind of the same.
The Jedi ship.
No, not the Jedi. The ship that Darth Maul uses to go to Tatooine.
No, you're talking about the ship in the Acolyte. Was that
Oh,
the Jedi ship?
the ship. Yeah, no, because it's not the Jedi ship. This is the arrival of May and Kamir.
Kamir, yes. So yes, Kamir, who is the evil guy now that we don't know yet.
Yeah, so that's the big spoiler, that he's the evil guy. And he's very much kind of, I think that itself is another homage. I think he's kind of doing the Yoda shtick, where he's kind of coming off as a bumbling idiot who doesn't really know what he's doing.
Yeah.
To judge whether this person that he is with him is worthy of his training, right?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that's, kind of throwing you off.
That's the shtick. Yep, he's definitely doing it.
Yeah, so they're there because May has to kill the 4 Jedi that were on her planet, and he's there to help. She even questions, like, why are you here? And he's like, well, I'm here to help you, right? So then we go back to Coruscant, and now we have a scene with a bunch of Jedi. The only one that we recognize is the Jedi Master Venastra, the green lady. But there is another Jedi that we recognize, not from the show, and it is confirmed to be Jedi Master Ki-Adi.
Yes.
Who, you remember what his famous line is, right?
What about the Wookiees? Something about that?
No. His famous line is, "That's impossible. The Sith have been extinct for 1,000 years." The guy that says that line in Phantom Menace is the guy that they put into this episode.
Yeah. So obviously it just went under his nose, this whole thing.
Yep.
Or he's a big fat liar. 200 years later. We'll find out.
We'll find out. But so it's
big,
a
tall-headed, skinny liar. I meant to say that.
Yeah. So they're in a. This is not, by the way, the Jedi High Council. This is a separate Jedi Council because I'm not sure why.
It's just it's whatever. It's just a committee. Like, it's probably just a subgroup that's in charge of some department or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
And so they're watching holovids of May when she was fighting Master Saul and Master Yor and those guys on that planet. And some interesting things that were brought up there. I mean, right away, Master Venestra is can tell that this person has been trained by a Jedi. And then they say, a Jedi? Could it be another Splinter Order? And I'm like,
Did they say another?
Yes.
Whoa. What does that mean?
I'm not sure what that means. But that could mean maybe anytime the Sith have shown up in these 1,000 years, the Jedi don't consider, they just it's just another Splinter Order, another Jedi who has fallen to the dark side of the Force possibly, but they're not recognizing them as Sith. Because, of course, that's going to happen all the time, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it happens, but obviously it implies that it does happen, that sometimes they're having splinters.
Yeah, and it also, I think we've talked about this before, just because you fall to the dark side or you become a dark side user, that does not make you the Sith. Going back into this Acolyte thing, the Sith is a religion for dark side users, right?
Well, yeah, I guess it could be. I mean, if you think about it, like the splintering stuff, I mean, Qui-Gon was probably at risk of not, I mean, he was on his way to potentially being on a splinter because he seemed to have different beliefs at times. Right?
Okay, I did a little bit of homework, my friend, and we're going to get into that in a little bit here.
Got it.
So they're asking about a Splinter Order, and someone brings up alerting the High Council. And right away, Jedi Master Venestra says, no, we're not going to inform the High Council, because they would then be obliged to inform the Senate. And that Senate would inspire fear and mistrust in the Jedi Order. So yeah, that is why they do not report that 2 Jedi have been killed so far by this.
Yeah. Well, Fenestra's on edge, right? Like, she revealed that earlier on. There's obviously, she alluded to some sort of factions going on. We did hear about one faction. I'm not sure if it's the same one that she's worried about, but there is a group called the Expansionists that they talk about in later episodes. If you remember that dropping of politics, which I'm always attuned to.
I have notes for that as well, my friend.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Venestra is sure that the Jedi trained her, and her fear is is part of, she fears that this is part of her master's plan. She says it's difficult to see because, as we know, the dark side clouds everything. At least that's what Jedi Master Yoda says in the
Sorry, what
sequel
did she
trilogy.
say about her master's plan? What?
Because
they know about a master, that there's a master out there.
they can tell that like this person has been trained by the Jedi, so they know she has a master, right? Because she's.
But what about her master's plan? Like she's trying to figure out what the master's plan is. That what she meant?
Well, she can tell that like this isn't just random. This isn't just some random attack that now 2 Jedi have been killed. So whoever trained this Jedi, their master has a plan.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to see like what it is that they're trying to do.
Yeah. But she's good. She's trying to figure it out. She's definitely on a.
Yes.
She's part of this. She starts to show up more as we see in the show.
Right.
Yeah.
So then, so they make the plan that they're going to send a team of Jedi to Kofar, and Jedi Master Saul is not part of that plan, but he wants to be, and he approaches Venestra outside of the council meeting, where they get into it a little back and forth. It was kind of interesting how they showed Jedi Master Ki-Adi and another Jedi looking at Saul and Venestra's conversation, where he's like arguing that he should be on this mission because it's the sister to his Padawan, and because he was on that planet and all of that. So basically, he says like, I have to make sure that they don't kill her. We need to get her back. I'm not sure why he wants to get her back now that I think about it.
He wants to get May?
Yeah, because he doesn't want May to get killed. He wants to go. Saul fears that the Jedi will neutralize May, and they will lose them. If they kill May, they'll lose any connection they have to her master, and that is why he wants to get on that mission, because he's afraid if things go bad and she attacks, the Jedi will just kill her, and he wants to make sure that she doesn't die, because him and Venestra want to find out who is her master and what he's trying to do.
That's you think it's just for intelligence, not because he's got some whatever he feels maybe some kind of guilt for what happened on with the fire and all that stuff, which I think we still potentially will find out more about what actually happened that fateful day when all the witches died, but not yet. But I think we haven't heard. We definitely haven't heard everything that Saul knows yet. That's for sure.
No, absolutely not. Okay, so from there we get onto the Jedi ship as it's traveling to Kofar. Master Yord is giving the briefing. He mentions that Kalnaka was stationed there, meaning that the Jedi put him there, but no one has heard from him in over a year. So we don't know why the Jedi put him on this planet, but they did put him there. But since he's been there, it's been over a year since the last time that the Jedi have had any communication with him. We also get introduced to so there's 8 Jedi on the mission. There's Master Saul, there's his apprentice Jeki, there's Master Yord, and then there's 5 red shirts, basically.
Well, they all become red shirts.
Yeah, you kind of knew it was going to happen in the start.
Well, no, I mean, we knew some were red shirts, but we didn't realize some of the main characters are going to become red shirts, and they did.
Exactly.
Slaughters happen. A slaughter happens. Oh, are you still there? Oh, we lost you. We lost Newhouse. So,
is the apprentice and not the master.
On that note, I'm going to talk about.
Hey.
Oh, hey, you back?
Yes.
Yes, you're back. Continue. Yeah. I don't know what happened, but you're back. That's all I can.
So we're introduced to the character. He's going to be a tracker. And so from there, then they land on the planet. Master Yord notices that Osha is carrying a blaster. He asks her to hand it over, saying it's against Republic law. But before she can actually hand over her blaster, they're interrupted. And this is also another scene where like Master Yord there's all this stuff happening. There's the interaction between Osha and Master Yord. And meanwhile, like Master Saul is just like standing there staring off into the forest, like he's feeling something in the force. And I find that a lot throughout this show. I feel like Saul is definitely stronger connected to the force than most Jedi, because there's a lot of moments through every episode I find where he's like he's communing with the force, I feel.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I think it just makes sense with the character, but also that the actor modeled himself after Qui-Gon was one of his. He said that that's one of his influences, was how Liam Neeson played Qui-Gon and how Qui-Gon's character was. So I felt,
Yeah, exactly.
he's that kind of Jedi, for sure.
And then the next scene after he's standing there looking is a quick scene between Osha and Master Yord. And I'll admit, up to this point, I kind of it's not that I disliked his character, but I thought this Master Yord guy was kind of he didn't seem like the brightest guy.
He was a dweeb.
He was a bit of a dweeb. He was a
dweeb.
By the rules kind of guy. But then as Osha is talking to him, and she tells him that he wants her to stop her. She's afraid that if she sees her sister again, and if something needs to be done, and her sister needs to be put down, she wants Yord to do it for her. And instead of agreeing to it, Yord gives some great, like, first it really got me thinking, like, okay, there's more to this character than I thought there was. And he suggests that Saul didn't bring her not to face her sister, but for her to face herself. I was like, that's some good wisdom there. And I just want to get into this Master Yord guy, because I feel like because it's also established that like when we first met him in the first episode is when he goes onto the ship because they're trying to find Osha because they think that she killed all these Jedi. And like, she's like, Yord, you finally made Jedi Master, right? He's like, yeah, 2 years ago. So I feel like he's a guy that he's not one of those guys where everything comes easy to him and comes naturally. Like he had to work for it, right? Like he's a guy that was studying. He does everything by the book. And I just these couple episodes, I was like, I really like this character, actually. It's a shame he's not going to be around for long.
Exactly. Yeah, I liked him. I liked the little, like, pixie chick.
Jackie, Master Padawan Jackie. And she herself, like, she has a great scene with Osha right after that scene where she's like, it's an honor to watch someone transform into the Force. I wrote that down because that's specifically what her line is, because she can tell that this Osha girl, the Force is awoken in her, and that she's right.
She almost represents kind of the High Republic at its peak, right? Where it's just like this, like, optimistic, go get him, hardworking, talented, smart person Jedi, right? Who's just like, this is the best of the High Republic right here.
And she has a great line as well, which
triple stabbed.
Oh, you're going an episode ahead, man. But
it's hard not to go ahead.
I know it's hard, but I just want to say, like, I'm actually really, really enjoying the writing on this show. Like, just another simple line like this, where she looks at Osha and she says, "We are not defined by what we lost. We are defined by what we survive." And I'm just like, yeah, cool. Right? It's just like little nuggets of wisdom like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now they're traveling through the forest. They see these things that are on the trees, which we're going to come to know that they're called an umbra moth, is what they are. They're like a moth kind of species that are drawn to the light, because they know as they're walking through there, Osha can sense one through the Force. All the other Jedi are just walking by these things, and she's like, this thing's alive, but she touches it and disturbs it. It flies off into the air. She calls Master Saul. He whips out his Jedi. He's like, I will handle this. And in one swipe, just takes down the Uber Moth. And they notice that it's drawn to the light, and that's why it's attacked. And they keep on walking. And then Saul stops again. He does like another one of those looks into the camera. Well, not looking into the camera. You can tell that he's feeling something in the Force. And right then, as they come out, and they're at Master Kalnaka's home. And so that's where we get to the end of the fourth episode. The Jedi say that, like, we know you're in there, come on out, you're here to be arrested. They think it's just May, and that's where we get to the homage of the stranger floating down behind May Osha. She turns around, she sees him. They have a face to face. He lifts up his hand, he pushes her away and ignites his lightsaber. All the Jedi light their lightsabers. He pushes them all back with the Force, and credits. So that's the end of the 4th episode.
Yeah. Tight episode. And on that, I mean, to your comment that maybe it was all one episode, I did hear one rumor was that they actually wore, because people were complaining that you didn't see enough of the Wookiee and you just see the Wookiee and it's dead already. There was a rumor that they actually were planning to show a Wookiee fight with the Sith guy, but they didn't have money for it. They needed it, I guess, for the other guy. So they cut that scene. That was one rumor. So there you go.
All right, good to know. Possible.
But yeah, I mean, really, it is. I mean, it's a nice tight ending. But yes, it really does go into the next episode, and it really is. I mean, the next episode is. I think it's like what, a 20-minute lightsaber battle. Isn't that like literally that's how long it is? Which is 2/3 of the episode.
When you take away the recap and the credits, yeah, it's like a 27-minute episode, and like 20 minutes of it is the lightsaber battle, right?
So let's just dive on in. I'm curious how you break that thing down. I assume you've watched it multiple times, because I know when you see good stuff and good action, you like to watch it again, right? So.
Yes, I do. I did watch it repeat times. The first thing is, the first time I watched it, though, I'm going to get into the homage. But the first time I was scared, because the episode starts with like her unconscious and her eyes open, right? And she's kind of getting her bearings, and she sits up, and then you start hearing noises. Then you see like a dead body. And my first thought was, oh my God, don't tell me they're not going to show us the fight. The first 20 seconds of the episode, I was like, oh my God, we've missed everything. We're going to wake up from her perspective. But no, that is not at all what happened. That is not at all what happens, because she gets up, she sees the dead body, and then you start hearing like all this violence. You start hearing the lightsabers, and then the camera pans out, and you see all these lightsabers, and that kind of gets to what the homage was. There's 2 other kind of like slight references to this homage, but can you guess what the homage is, John? Of her, like the opening shot, her laying there in the jungle, and then her eyes open, and then she like gets up and she's in the jungle, and then she sees the dead body and she starts hearing noises, and then you get an establishing shot showing what's going on. Do you get that homage now, my friend? Is that not the opening scene of Lost?
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna get that. I'm not gonna get that.
2 times in this episode, the characters say, we have to go back.
Oh, do they say that? They have to go back?
Twice Osha says they have to go back. She's trying to get Master Yoda to go back.
Here's a tangent, Newhouse. When's a Lost reboot's got to be happening someday? I assume people have been chatting about it.
I've seen like rumors of the possibility, but there's nothing. I think it behind closed doors, it's being talked about.
Yeah. They'll eventually get to it when they get to it. The media super machine, because they reboot everything, and that's definitely going to be rebooted, right? It's almost. I mean, it's one of those things where everybody. I guess you'll probably get the actors will be like, well, the clock is ticking, and they'll probably like blab it more and more, and then maybe that'll get the balls rolling.
Well,
right?
Okay, well, hold on here, because now I'm getting confused, because you're talking reboot, but you're talking actors. Do you want a reboot or a continuation?
Oh, sorry, continuation. I mean, they've been doing that now. People have been saying things are reboots, but they're not. They're continuations. So reboots now being like bastardized, but yes, I meant a continuation.
Fair. Okay. Yeah.
I would like that too. Let's kill that tangent, but I just wanted to just double check, because
here's the bit.
Lost to me in a long, long time, so I was like, well, now I might as well ask, just in case you have some exciting rumors to share.
You can bring up Lost and let me get my 2 cents in too. Because I would totally be up for it, and I would love to see a continuation. But the problem is the 2 main actors. Evangeline Lilly has retired from acting. From what I hear, she's not even going to be coming back to play the Wasp in any more Marvel movies.
Okay.
And I don't know if Matthew Fox picked retirement, but has that dude done anything? Because I know he had his off-screen issues with alcohol and stuff.
Canceled before canceling was a thing. I mean, you don't need those 2 to do a Lost show. You don't need them.
No,
you just need Hurley and a couple other people, and you're good to go.
Well, we just saw Benjamin Linus in Fallout, so we know
That's
he's
right.
still gone, and he looks
Yeah.
good,
Yeah,
right? And Hurley and John Locke, what did he just show up in?
Oh, is he still doing stuff?
He was just in something. I can't remember what it is, but I was like, holy cow, that's John Locke, and I was like, that's awesome. So yeah, bring those guys back. But anyway, back to Star Wars.
Yeah. So Lost Homage, got it.
So yeah, Lost homage. I wasn't sure if it was a homage, but I was getting the Lost vibes. But then twice during that episode, when she's like, "We gotta go back," I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's such a sly, well done, right?" Like you don't put that in the show with not on purpose. But yeah, okay. So she wakes up. She's the one dead guy. Then we get a big fight scene where basically all of the red shirt Jedi that were on the planet get killed. You had a really cool move with like a shish kebab thing where he stabbed the one Jedi through the heart and then used the force pull to pull another one through the saber so that there were two dead Jedi on the one saber. One thing that I noticed that I don't know if you picked up here, John, and now this is gonna trigger some bigger theories about what's going on this show. They played the Kylo Ren theme at this point.
Oh, okay.
They played the Kylo Ren theme twice in the episode. They actually played it again at the end of this episode, and they played it again one more time.
Yeah, well, I mean, him wearing that mask is pretty Kylo Renish, right? It's a Kylo Ren kind of mask.
But
he's a Kylo Ren kind of a character because he's buff and muscular and not some
totally
scary
agree.
deformed guy like Vader is, right? So yeah.
But Kylo Ren wasn't Sith.
Yeah, but he's definitely heading there.
Maybe, but he wasn't Sith. And
I mean, who was he working for? He didn't realize he was working
for Snoke, and Snoke was not putting himself across as Sith either.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, everyone was saying that this show was all about the Sith, and it could still be. But I'm wondering if we've even seen a Sith on this show. So yet. I'm wondering if this
mention the word Sith. He didn't mention the word Sith. You're right. If they hadn't, then he's just a splitter. He's just doing his own thing.
Okay, well, that's at the end of the episode, so I was going to get there. But his exact quote was, I got to go ahead on my page here. I have to find it because I'm not going in order. Where is the exact line?
This is at the end of the fifth episode?
Well, no, this is the end of the fifth episode. I had to go to a page because I got distracted because they played the Kylo Ren theme. So there's all this fighting, right? Like he kills all the red shirts, he kills Master Yord, he kills Jecki. I'll go back to that a little bit, but then it's finally it's him and Saul, just as to get into this Ren question. So they're fighting. He gets his helmet knocked off finally by Master Yor, which is yeah, go Master Yor. Oh, no, sorry, it was Jecki. Jecki knocked off his helmet, but then Master Yord shows up later and uses the helmet so that they finally get the upper hand against this guy because he's so badass. But anyway, okay, so once they're standing face-to-face, Master Saul and Chimere, who's, well, I don't need to tell you he doesn't have a name. Okay. Okay, so he goes to attack and he says, "Not very Jedi," Chimere says, as he grunts, and he throws the saber away. "Who are you?" Master Saul says. "I have no name, but Jedi like you might call me Sith." So he's not even saying that he's Sith. He's just saying.
That's right. So that's right. He did say the word Sith, but he said it as that phrase. You're right. That's an interesting line. So I do remember hearing it, but he's not. You're right. He's not saying he's Sith.
He's not saying that he's Sith.
Yeah.
Right. He's just saying, well, you guys might call me Sith, and I'm saying he's saying that just because he doesn't follow the Jedi doctrine, right?
Yeah.
You don't know if he's following the Sith doctrine either, but the Jedi might look at someone who's strong in the dark side of the Force, and well, he must be Sith.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that was a very specific use of words there. Then Jedi Master Saul says, "What do you want?" And he says, "Freedom. The freedom to wield my power the way I like.
Yeah.
without having to answer to Jedi.
Yeah.
I want a pupil, an acolyte. She exposed me. Now I have to kill every last one of you.
She.
So
Who's she?
May or
Oh, May. Got it.
I'm
That's
not
right.
sure who. Well, he's talking either about May or Jackie. I mean, May exposed him because
Or
she made
somebody
him
else.
get involved in all of this, but Jackie was the one that also knocked off her mask, his mask. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, whether he has a mask on or not, he's kind of been revealed when you see this masked guy who's a crazy super fighter dude. But yes, that she could be many different things. I have some ideas that when we get to the next episode of who he might be referring to, alternatively to Jackie or May.
Right.
Yeah.
So the fight goes on. One thing I really liked about this fight that I've never seen in any Star Wars lightsaber fight before was at one point when Master Saul and Khmer were fighting each other, they switched and had a camera angle showing their feet and showing the footwork that was happening and
Yeah.
how they were advancing and fighting with each other. And for those that want to know, Khmer was using a lightsaber form that is already known and established. It is known as the Trakata lightsaber form. The big thing about this lightsaber form is turning your saber off and on to confuse your enemies so that they don't know, like, they can't predict what you're going to do for some reason. So that's an actual form of lightsaber combat that has been established before in the universe. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, we skipped over a bunch of stuff, but none of that's really that important. And then we get to the end of the episode. Master Saul finally gets the upper hand. He is about to kill Khmer when Osha shows up and says no. The way I interpret that is it's just like Anakin, where you've beaten him. He's defenseless, right?
Yeah.
To kill him at that point would just be execution, and that is not something that the Jedi do, right?
Yeah.
But Saul, throughout this episode, he was really like, he was doing a lot of emoting, a lot
He's
more
got
emoting.
demons. That guy's got demons.
Right?
Yeah.
And I never watched Squid Game, but this guy is one hell of an actor, and some of his line deliveries during this episode was like the way the spit came out of his mouth when he was like, his mind has been twisted by darkness. I was just like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, I think his English is getting better, right? Because he's probably learning the language. Because when they started, he was basically, they would just like they'd say, this is how you say it. And he would say it, but he only knew the Korean version of it, right?
Yes,
but
he had never spoken any English when he took the job.
As he's been shooting it more and more, he's actually probably been learning actual English. And now he's probably visualizing the words more in his head of what he's just like the English and less of the Korean. I think his enunciation is getting a little better too. But yeah, no, he's a cool actor. He's a very cool actor. Definitely a cool actor.
And then after he has that awesome line, is like, his mind has been twisted by darkness. Khmer looks up at him and goes, I've accepted my darkness. What have you done with yours? He asks. And again, Saul like steps back, like he almost staggers back, like he's just been slapped in the face with some like hard truth that he can't deny, right? Like,
yeah, well, Khmer knows them. I mean, I was basically getting the sense that Khmer was a student at the Jedi Academy.
Well, okay, one of the things that I skipped over that actually is relevant now that I mentioned is when they're fighting and he first knocks off the helmet, Khmer asks him, like, don't you recognize me? And he says, there is something familiar about you. And I don't take that.
He's probably 10 years old when he last saw him.
Yeah, so I don't think, I mean, a lot of people are saying, well, that's just when they met at the apothecary on that planet in the second episode when Khmer was still doing his bumbling.
Oh, that's right. They would have
kind of.
Well, he would have seen him on video, but Khmer would have not known that he had seen him.
Yeah, well, they were in the same room together, were they not? After, because they set in Osha pretending to be May, and then once the cover was blown, once he figured out that this isn't May, this is Osha, all the Jedi came in the room, right? And the
Oh, okay.
first thing
What did
Kamir
Khmer
did when he
do at
came in
that
the room
point?
was he's like, don't use your Jedi mind trick on me. Don't use like he's like, please don't use your Jedi mind trick on me, right?
Oh, yeah,
Because
yeah.
he's like, I'll
That's
tell you
right.
whatever you want to know, because he knew if
Yes.
Saul did reach out with the
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Force,
You're right. You're right. They did see each other before. Okay. So,
right?
so
But I
is he
still
is he
don't think
referring?
that's what they're referencing
No,
when
it
he's
seemed like it was a deeper past thing. So, but anyway, who
yeah,
knows? We'll
yeah,
find out more eventually because they're slowly leaking more and more information out as the show
yeah.
goes on. So,
And so also, so yeah, so they have him beat. He's about to execute. Says no. Then he slaps him in the face verbally with his "I've accepted my darkness. What have you done with yours?" Which like Saul's, he like staggers back. This gives Kamir the chance he needs to grab his lightsaber and reignite the battle. But then that is when Osha, her whole plan was, as long as she took her little droid Pip, she turned on the light, so she'd been running through the jungle to getting all these Umbra moths, sorry, to follow her, and then she snuck up behind Kamir, threw the light in his back, and he gets attacked by all of the Uber moths who carry him into the sky, where I assumed he was going to die. I thought he was going to get eaten alive by these moths,
no,
but
no,
at
they
the end
wouldn't
of the
kill him.
episode,
They wouldn't kill him right away.
yeah, no, he did not die, and he's back. Meanwhile, Osha and May, they had a confrontation themselves. May believes that Osha has been corrupted by the Jedi, and Osha believes that May had been corrupted by the dark side, and they don't get along. May just wants to be with her sister. Her sister thinks she's evil and needs to be turned in, so she gets stunned and knocked out. May then puts on Osha's clothes and goes back with Master Saul, and they get on their ship together. Meanwhile, Kamir finds Osha's unconscious body. Now, there's a quick moment here where he turns her over and he sees that she has a wound on her side. I don't even know where she got that wound. I'm assuming it was when her sister force pushed her and she fell off the cliff. She got injured. And a lot of people are suggesting that Kamir used force heal on her there. Um, I I didn't see it. If it was there, I watched the episode twice. It was, if that was their intention to communicate that to the audience, it was way too subtle and it went over my head. Did you get the impression that he used a force heal on her there, Johnny D?
I can't remember. I can't remember because it's been like over a week ago. So
okay. Well,
yeah.
it does seem to be the general consensus is that he did use the force heal, and of course that is
So
somewhat
that would be
controversial.
Kamira that did that. No.
Kamir did that, yes.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I mean, it sounds vaguely
force
familiar. Yeah, I mean, because he's not all bad, I guess,
no.
because he's not really fully Sith. He just seems to be a person who just wants to have freedom of religion, I guess you could say.
Right.
But he has killed Jedi, so that's definitely problematic, and he's probably violated some laws of that. So yeah.
And it's also worth noting that Force Heal is not a Sith ability. It's a Jedi ability. It is not a dark side power. It is a light side power. So you mentioned earlier that you think he was trained by and was a Jedi at one point. Well, if that was a Force Heal, that would lead credence to that.
Yep.
However, because of what this show is supposed to be during the time, it should be noted that Palpatine's Sith Master Darth Plagueis, he had mastered Force Heal. So, just
Sorry,
throwing
when
that
was
out
that
there.
revealed? When was that revealed?
Okay, we're going to get into a lot of that. That's from the Darth Plagueis book.
Okay, so not in the movies. Got it. Yeah.
Not in the movies, no. But there's a lot from this book that even in the show, there's a
I
lot
have
from,
two
and we're
levels
going
of evidence I'm always ready to take. I always like to know whether there's the movie evidence, but I'm also
yes.
okay with the non-movie evidence. I just like to know whether it's one or the other.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that is not technically that book isn't even canon either because that it was a pre-Disney release. I do feel though that I do want to go read this book because I've been hearing about this book for like 15, 20 years, and it explains Palpatine's rise to power. It explains who his master was, Darth Plagueis, and who his master, Darth Plagueis' master, Darth Tenenbaum was. And then there's a bunch in there that we're going to get into as I get into like the Easter eggs
So
and stuff.
it's a
and explaining.
respected book of the fandom, right?
Yes.
And the cream
100%.
rises to the top. So after a time, you can pick what you want. The cream of the crop at the top. So
100%.
Definitely good idea. Check out that book.
And also, now I saw this. I didn't actually have the quote written down myself, but the final line of the 6th episode, or the 5th episode, sorry, was Kumir said something over top of Osha's unconscious body, and apparently it's a quote from a real life person called Jordan Peterson. I don't even know. Apparently, and there's Jordan Peterson is a very
like the kind of guy who like some right wingers are into. He's like a Canadian.
Yes, he's a very controversial figure from what I heard.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I could see him being a villain in the eyes of the showrunner,
right?
Because he's definitely he's up there with J.K. Rowling and not being very fond of the trans community.
Okay, so that all right. Well, I'm glad I brought it up because I knew that name would have some sort of relevance.
So it's a straight up quote that they dropped. So a lot of people
the line was a straight up quote from Jordan Peterson.
Yeah. Wow. So Jordan Peterson's in the Star Wars universe, or is this guy? It was his own line that he made up. That just coincidentally is the same line that Jordan Peterson has. What was the line again? Do you have the line?
I don't have the line, but I mean, I can Google it.
No, you don't Google it. That's my job.
Okay, yeah, Google it. The final line of episode 5.
Yeah, well, you can continue on. I'll see if I can find it fast.
And okay, so yeah, and that pretty much wraps up that episode. Like I said, we're gonna get into the 6th and final. Like, not much happens in this next episode. I mean, they really blew their budget in that previous episode, but I think that's great. Although it wasn't an action heavy episode, there is tons of lore stuff going on here and lots for us to talk about.
Yeah, so before I get into that, the line is, even in the revelation of our triumph, we see the depth of our despair. So yes, I remember that line. I was like, ooh, that's a very meaty line. I didn't realize it was a Jordan Peterson line.
Now I'm curious, are you able to see in what context did Jordan Peterson make that quote? What was he talking about when he said it?
Oh, it says, I guess when he was getting like canceled, he did some video where he was like crying because he was so emotionally upset about being canceled. So he made it during one of those videos. So even in the revelation of our triumph, we see the depth of our despair. I just don't like trans people. Just get off my back. That's my guess.
Right. Okay. All right. So now we open up episode 6 with Osha once again waking up. That seems to be a running theme, actually. I think this is probably the 5th or 6th time in this series that we've seen her go from an unconscious state to an awake state.
Mm-hmm.
She wakes up in a cave, a lived-in cave, not a deserted cave. It's very kind of similar to Master Kanaka's abode on Kofar, where there's running water, there's some plant life, there's everything. It also kind of reminds me of Yoda's setup on Dagobah, actually.
Yeah. Inspired me. I was like, I gotta set up my own little secret cave somewhere. Stuff like that. Yeah, I thought it was inspiring.
But then a big reveal is once she leaves the cave.
And that is when Newhouse has left the stream. Hopefully he figures out what the problem is.
It's
you back there, Newhouse?
I'm back, yeah.
Okay, you dropped for 10 seconds.
I'm doing this on my Xbox, and when I don't use my Xbox controller after 20 minutes, it turns off. That's why you've lost me twice. I got to remember to keep touching.
Oh, okay. So you have to have like a very simple game to play on the side just to keep your controller going.
Indeed. So we
get
some
the solitaire up there.
Yeah, right. And it's a ocean-looking planet, rocky.
Yeah.
Very. My first thing was, holy crap, she's on Ahch-To. I'm like, this is Ahch-To. This is the planet, the first ever Jedi and Sith temple. That we saw in Last Jedi. But then we get the title card, and then we get the establishing shot again, and right away it says unknown planet. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well maybe this isn't Octu.
Or maybe it is. They
Why?
didn't want to reveal that it's Act 2 yet.
Right? But the thing that makes me think that it's not
I
Octu,
didn't see any temples though, so it's
there's
probably
no
not.
temples, there's
I
no
mean,
porgs, and there's no
blue milk, blue titty milk.
alien blue milk nipples happening, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could be
So
another part of the planet where they don't have porgs or
it
blue
could be,
milk
but they
titty
also made an
aliens.
effort to introduce another little creature that we saw hanging out on this planet, this cute little critter. I did not make a note of what it was called, but yeah, they show that there is life here and it is different from the life. Now, okay, so I'll get into that later. Sorry,
There's probably
trying to.
plenty of planets that look like other planets in the galaxy.
Yes. Well, there is one specific planet, Johnny D, that has been in Star Wars lore before. It was in. Well, the name of this planet that I'm talking about it's called Baldemic.
Baldemic.
And it's an ocean planet with rocky islands. Sounds
Okay.
kind of familiar, doesn't it?
Yes.
This planet appeared in the Glenn Teverdosky Clone Wars cartoons. This planet appeared in the Darth Plagueis novel. And this planet appeared in the Book of the Sith. This planet is known to be rich with cartosis. Now, let's go back to episode 5 for a second, something I purposely didn't want to mention there, because as this guy was fighting all these Jedi, it kept happening throughout the scene where these Jedi, they would attack him, and all of a sudden their lightsabers would short out.
Yes,
and,
yes.
And all that, I didn't really know what was happening at the time. There was a couple times where I thought he like cut their lightsabers, but then the lightsabers reignited, and I was like, "What? Well, what's going on there?" It happened anytime that they struck his helmet. It also happened. He had this one gauntlet on his arm. And as we come to find out later in this episode, as he's working with his helmet, he explains to Osha that it's coated with cartosis. Now, cartosis is something that has shown up in the Knights of the Republic. Do you remember dealing with cartosis in your playthrough of either one of those games, Johnny?
No. Was it in one of the playthroughs that we did in KOTOR 2, or you just remember it from your playing of the game?
I don't remember it myself. It was when I was researching it. It was pointed out that it had been used in Knights of the Old Republic. So I'm assuming because it said Knights of the Old Republic, it was used in the first game and not the second game.
Okay.
But it is something that does short out lightsabers, and it can affect the ability of ones to use the Force on it. And so, yes, so this unnamed planet, which they specifically, this is the first time in this series that they did not name a planet. Every other planet, even if it's not been said by name, they still give you the name of the planet during the establishing shot. And in this Darth Plagueis novel, okay, Darth Plagueis, in case you're not keeping up, Darth Plagueis was the master of Darth Sidious, who we know as Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Now, Darth Plagueis' master was Darth Tenebris. Darth Tenebris, he was a shipbuilder. He was an engineer. He was extremely rich. And Darth Plagueis was his apprentice. And Darth Plagueis killed his master, Darth Prentice, on this planet, Baldemic, which they were there because it had a cartosis mine on it. Darth Plagueis was known to be very eager to take advantage of cartosis. So again, something else that this show is referencing from that Darth Plagueis novel, and how this is all deep in Star Wars lore.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
This isn't stuff that they're just coming out of with from nowhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was actually.
How does it work to short out the lightsabers? Is it just the proximity of it being like because he had like, he had a gauntlet that was made of it and a helmet?
Okay, and now the show was getting some hate because later on in this sixth episode, they show him because the helmet got damaged by Master Jeki during the fight. Remember, that's how it got knocked off. She split the back of it in half. So in this episode, at one point when he's sitting in the cave with Osha and they're having their talk back and forth, and he explains that, oh, this helmet is covered in cortosis, and he's using like this plasma tool to fix it, right? And it was like, well, how come it's not shorting out the plasma tool? How come it's knocking out the lightsaber? Like, this is bad writing, everyone says. No, it's not bad writing. Because if you actually know what cortosis does, it hampers the effects of kyber. Kyber is what lightsabers are powered from, and kyber is strong in the Force, and that's why lightsabers are specific to each Jedi, and they have their connection to the Force through the kyber. They're not actually connected to the lightsaber; they're connected to the kyber crystal that powers the lightsaber, and so that is why this cortosis knocked out the lightsabers.
And it's been around. You're totally right. I looked it up. They call it in KOTOR. There was the null blade. And so it was one of the things you dealt with when you do the Sith planet quests, where you're looking at through the old temples. I believe that's the sense I'm getting from this Wikipedia article.
And it's not
so it's basically people who are complaining about that. You're right. It's been established in the lore. So deal with it, people.
And it's not a strong metal. It's not like Beskar. There's two reasons why stormtroopers and everybody isn't running around in episode 4 and episode 1 is because it's rare. It's hard to find. And 2, it's fragile. It's only effective against kyber. As you saw when Jecki was able to like split the back of the helmet in half because she finally figured out hitting him with my lightsaber blade isn't doing anything. And she used the blunt end of her lightsaber to hit him in the helmet. And that's
she probably knew it was cortosis because she's like a good student, has been reading up on her history.
Yeah, right.
So she probably knew that.
I like it, man. I like it. Yeah, I think you're right. So, so that's there. So that card's pretty cool stuff. So we're going back and forth, and now we get into a little bit. We go back to Coruscant, because word is getting back. Master Saul managed to, when he got back onto the ship before he starts traveling, he starts up a communication and he's trying to call Coruscant to let him know. I found it an interesting choice when he first established communication. He says there's been he's all distraught. The dude is messed up, man. He's in a rough place in this episode. He's going through all sorts of feelings. And it starts off, there's been and then he stops. And he changes what he was going to say. I don't know what he was going to say, but he says, "My whole team is dead."
Yeah. Well, because I think he knows more about what this guy might actually be. This what's his name again? Khmer? Is that?
Khmer is his name. His official name is the Stranger. Like when you watch the episode with subtitles on, and they want you to know who's saying what, it says the Stranger is the name that they are given on the show. He does not, because he doesn't have a Darth name, because he might not even be Sith. He might be Ren. We don't know yet. So she's calling it, and then so Saul gets through to this guy, this Master Nog, and I got to tell you, okay, I find it interesting that they're introducing a new character this late into the show. Like there's only 2 more episodes left after this, and they're introducing a new character, which is kind of strange. But also this guy, like casting wise, man, to me he looks evil. Did he look kind of weird to you?
Are you talking like the guy who's assisting Venestra?
Yeah.
No,
he seem off?
He looked off. He looked kind of I don't know, nerdy, and I don't know, another dweeb, another Jedi dweeb.
All right, okay, fair enough.
I didn't get evil vibes. I mean, Fenestra, I definitely get. She seems a bit sinister,
right?
Especially with her whip lightsaber. That was. We'll
get into that here too right away here, my friend. I'm almost done my notes. Don't worry. We are on the last episode, but it says the whole team is dead. Communication breaks down, and Saul is feeling it, man. Like he hits the table. His lip is quivering. Like he's going through some emotional stuff that you wouldn't normally think that a Jedi would be going through. Then we go back to this unknown planet. Osha's following Khmer. He gets naked. And this is where you do see the scar on his back. And this scar, I mean, it's not a lightsaber scar because it's too. I mean, some would say it looks like a whip scar,
Yep.
which, as you mentioned later, that there's a character with a whip.
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
So that's the
so
speculation is that she was the master of him as a Padawan, right?
right. I did a little bit of history. We're going to end this off here with the history of this Jedi Master Venestra. I'm going to tell you all about her, which is interesting. It's going to go back into the Qui-Gon stuff that you were talking about at the start of the episode that I mentioned. So we're going to get there, though. So he's in the water, he's having a bath, whatever. Like it's really weird how like the Jedi, the good guy, like he's going through emotional turmoil on the ship. He's in a rough time. Meanwhile, like the bad guy is like chill. He's having a bath. He's relaxed. He's totally collected, right? Like he's on top of things. So she grabs the lightsaber. He realizes that she has the lightsaber, so he finally acknowledges that she's there, and all he does is starts giving her tips on her form. He's like, raise your elbow so that you can block more efficiently and stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. Meanwhile, we go back to the ship, and okay, I have been complimenting the writing a lot so far this episode, but I do have an issue that came up. This whole, what's the point of Basil?
That's such a weak design on that character. He's a huge dud for this show. That's for sure.
Oh,
He's obviously like they tried to make a cute character and he was not cute. I don't know how you could not make him cute. They totally failed on that. And then he's not effective. The writing, the scenes aren't good. You can tell they're trying to make it comical because they have the comical violin plucking sounds that to say this is going to be a funny scene, and it's like so not funny. So yes, definitely a big flaw of the show is any scene with Basil.
Okay, and so that said, what was the point of even putting him in? What point to the story does he serve?
There's all these ports where like he smells out where the Wookiee is, and I don't know. It's a definitely yes, a bit of a disaster that part of the writing. That's my sense. The whole thing.
Okay, so he did that on what? Then what was the point of even like bringing him back? Like the whole assumption was that he found Pip. He knew that that May was masquerading as Osha. Right? Like you're like, okay, he's going to be the one that tells Master Saul that like, okay, this isn't who she says she is. He's going to reveal everything to her, all of that. But none of that happened. The only thing that I can wrap my head around, like the reason, like the whole thing with him confronting May on the ship and that little like he's doing kung fu in the air and then he just hugs her leg and stomps on her foot. Like none of that had to be there at all. The only thing was it just so that they could bring the Pip? That's the only contribution story-wise that I can see where they even had him in there at all.
Yeah.
Was that
I'll tell you this much, Nuance. I was starting the lingering boredom I was getting from the show was starting to permeate more and more in that episode. And I was struggling to get through that episode. Oh, I'm going to have to put that down on the table. That
fair. Hey, that's fair.
It's hard to be bored for the 5th episode, but now I'm just like, okay, there's something about this show that's just not hitting it, and it's starting to wear on me. That's where I'm at, and now it's like, okay, so they got 2 episodes left. It's good to talk this out with you because you're definitely bringing in what I find is interesting is, okay, well, I'm interested in how does this fit into the Star Wars Uber mythology and whatnot. But now it's like, okay, well, I just want it to be done now. And there's 2 episodes left, so I'm like, okay, now I just want to see what they do. Right. But I'm also wondering, are they going to do anything, or is it going to be like just all for nothing? I mean, I'm getting that one of the themes I'm getting that's probably interesting is that, yes, there's, and I always kind of like to tie it back to what I was getting from the Ahsoka series, right? With, is it Balin, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this concept of this middle path, right? And that he was getting that. And it's interesting when I was thinking about it today, how I'm starting to get tired of the show where with Ahsoka, this is by this point, episode 6 is when I was wrapped up. I was like, wow, I'm really into Ahsoka. Like far more than I was at the start. But then it kind of petered out, and I kind of felt a little unsatisfied because I felt they were showing some interesting things that Balin was getting to, but they didn't really get into as much as I'd like to. This one, at least, I'm thinking, well, maybe they'll add a little bit more to that, but I'm guessing that there's still going to be so much left unsaid. It's all going to be. I'm guessing there's an end game to all this, and I was also wondering, like, how much does Filoni have input into what they're doing here, what they're laying out here? Because that's what I'm kind of.
This would have been greenlit before Filoni received the promotion. Just keep saying what I just want to throw it just so you know.
Yeah. So then I'm thinking this could either be like they might reveal something of interest for the mythos, or they could just be like, oh, it just happened, and the story is there was people wanting freedom, and there is some different parts of the Jedi or the Force, which is fine. That's great that they established that, the witches and this guy. But it could be that it just wraps up and nobody remembers it, and then it becomes kind of not that impactful to the long-term history, which is fine. But definitely, if that's going to be the case, then I got to be gripped by the show, and so it's starting to lag a bit with some of these flaws. That's where
I agree. I mean, for me, the weakest part of the show is the twins, by far. I mean, anytime this Khmer guy, I can see how you feel the way you did with this last episode.
Well, he's a very respected actor. I mean, he's obviously he's doing a good job, and so I mean, he's good, and Saul's good. So I mean, there's a good actor. Yeah, the twins. I think the actress doing there it's just. I mean, the characters themselves are just kind of, they're not grabbing me. And then of course, then you have the rodent creature who's just so lazily designed and just not appealing or funny or entertaining at all. Adding all these weird plot points, you're like, why? Who's plotting this out? It's just it's not as tight as it could be, and so it's starting to get boring, right? I gotta get that out there. I did like the end of that episode. I did like the end of her putting on the mask. I thought that was a cool scene. That's where I was like, okay, actually, I got a little gripped by that because I thought it was a good moment because it shows that how her journey is interesting to me, and that she is kind of questioning the Jedi, which is, I guess, that's kind of the theme. Is that's what people are doing? They're questioning the Jedi. I'm even questioning the Jedi, so that's good. It's getting me involved as an audience member there. But I think that kind of puts you in the place of now you're with her questioning the Jedi because they're kind of a little kooky and crazy and sometimes maybe a little too fundamentalist religious for my liking, right? So there's still good things I'm getting out of the show.
Yes, I mean, to me, saying that the Jedi as an institution might not be as good as I thought it was doesn't take away at how the goodness of some of the Jedi characters that are out there, right? Like you'll never be able to tell me that Obi-Wan Kenobi was bad or evil in any way, right? But just because he was working for the Jedi as an institution doesn't necessarily make that good. And I think that's part of what's really cool about the show is, when you start up with the prequels, the Jedi are an extension of the Republic, right? Like they are the Republic peacekeepers. When the Republic goes to war, their answer is we send in the Jedi. But during the High Republic, the Jedi is a separate. They're not part of the Republic, and I mean, there's still a little bit more to talk about what happens in this episode, and I think the show is getting to show us. Part of what they're doing is showing us is how did the Jedi exactly go from being a separate entity, their own institution, to becoming under the authority of the Galactic Republic, right? I don't know if maybe for you, because you're not as aware of all the outside the video games and the comic books and all the cartoons and stuff. Maybe you weren't. Was it clear to you from the start that during the High Council that the Jedi is not an extension of the Republic and that they are their own separate entity that can do whatever they want?
Sorry, where was that? Where do they mention that in the show? Or are you saying outside the show they mentioned that in something?
It's because there's the High Republic, all those novels and comic books and all of that. And it is, if you were to read those, it is established in there that the Jedi do not work for the Republic. So where they are at the start of the prequels is not where they are for the 1,000 years before the prequels. Something happened between the end of the High Republic and the Phantom Menace where the Jedi became an extension of the Republic and not their own separate entity. Now, I can't give you a lot of examples because I haven't read all the High Republic books and all the High Republic comics, but I am aware from what I have researched and learned that is something that they make a point of putting out there, is that how the Jedi are. The Jedi don't have any checks and balances. The Jedi during the High Republic don't answer to anybody, and that's kind of what is happening. Like, to go back and make this relevant to what we saw in that episode, we were about to get to the scene after all this weird stuff with Basil, the rodent thing on the ship. The next scene, it goes to Coruscant, and we have Senator Ravencroft. He is voting to have an external review of the Jedi Order. And this is by the I forget what you mentioned it earlier. So
the expansionist group.
The expansionist group, yes. So the Senator Ravencroft from the expansionist group, he is demanding that they have an external review of the Jedi Order. So maybe that has something to do with this expansionist. Is how the. I mean, I don't really.
Sorry, how what?
Is how that the Jedi end up becoming basically Republic soldiers by the time the Phantom Menace rolls around.
Oh, yeah, possibly.
Right.
So at this point, you're saying they're more independent. Sorry, I was dealing with some technical difficulties there, so it's half listening. But yes, you're saying that they were used to be independent, and then
because this show is showing us the end of the that's one of its many mission goals, was to show how the High Republic ended. So I think that's part of it, is how whatever is going to happen in this show is going to end up being like the Galactic Republic is going to be like, okay, Jedi, like, you no longer get to do whatever you want to do throughout the universe. Now you are going to have to follow Republic laws and stuff like. And I think it's kind of like I'm assuming it's some sort of agreement that they have with the Republic. Like, okay, like,
we'll have to see. They only got 2 episodes left, so I mean that'll be. We'll have to see what they pack in, right?
Yeah, and very quickly before I get into the end of the breakdown, I mean, they only got 2 episodes left, and I do share your concerns, because from what I've heard, the development of this show has changed. Like, from what I'm hearing now, like right now, it's a standalone 1-season thing. But I've also heard from past interviews how the creator, she didn't want to reveal that Khmer was the stranger until the 2nd season. So I'm hearing
they're gunning for a 2nd season. I didn't even think about that.
Right?
Because basically, I mean, Andor's getting a 2nd season, right?
Andor's getting a 2nd season.
They weren't gunning for it, or were they? It seemed like they could.
No, they were.
Oh, they were. Okay.
The whole pitch from the start, it was actually supposed to be 5 years. But then
really?
Diego Luna and Gilroy, I forget his first name, but the showrunner, they were both like, yeah, you know what? Like, we can't dedicate 5 years of our lives to this. So let's just do 2 seasons instead, right?
So they're going for 2 seasons. So what happens? I mean, so is there going to be a 2nd season? Is that basically a done deal?
Well, okay. Well, this goes into the terrible Acolyte reviews and all of that. Like, again, this show has inspired so much like negative discourse. Like, I don't even know what's true and what's not true anymore.
I can literally streaming numbers. It's got to come down to streaming numbers.
I can go onto Twitter and I can see, because I follow so many different people. I'll see one person I follow say, the Acolyte has the worst Star Wars ratings ever. And then the next person says, so Acolyte has the best Star Wars streaming numbers that they've ever seen. The only one that was better was Kenobi. Like, I don't know who to believe anymore. Right?
Yeah, well, so I mean, like, there's got to be actual real stats out there. Well, I know Nielsen's been revealing more and more stats. So, I mean, it always seemed like streaming services were being pretty cagey about it. But last time I looked at the Nielsen site, there's actually a lot more data. And I don't know if they've just figured out how to get the data, or they made arrangements or the streaming services just finally had to open the gates, or whether Nielsen's just making it up. I mean, Nielsen, I think they just do like statistical analysis, right? Where they just basically have a group of people that they just monitor who just agree to become like Nielsen households, just like they did with the television, right? So I assume you can get that data. So yeah, I'm curious where these people are getting their data and why there's 2 different sets of data. that show that it's the worst, and the other that shows it's the best, right?
I mean, honestly, I think it just comes down to narrative. It just goes to whatever narrative the people that want to push the narrative, the
Well,
negative.
they got to be getting their stats from somewhere. I mean, you can always, I'm assuming they're not just pulling it out of their ass. Maybe they are.
Right.
I'm gonna look up streaming stats, see if I can easily get, because I was looking at the Nielsen site recently, because there was a cool article about how last month, or the month of May, Pluto TV actually had, or is it Pluto? No, it's Tubi. Tubi, which is free, had more streams according to Nielsen than Disney. So it moved up to like number 5 or 4 in the list, right?
Wow.
And
Okay.
and part of the article, and then people commenting on the article, and me personally, is like, well, yeah, if you have all the Transformers and GI Joe cartoons, that's a good start, right? People got excited that you could watch Transformers and GI Joe for free, right? Had the Doctor
Well,
Who's,
yeah.
had all the old Doctor Who's, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so anyway, but of course, then it took me to the Nielsen site, and I was like, the Nielsen site had all this cool data, and I was like, oh, okay, this is showing me now more information about ratings and whatnot. So, yeah, so I'm curious if, I'm guessing one guy got it maybe from. Well, okay, here we go. The top Google hit says it was the 9th most watched streaming original for June 21st to 27th, with 232 million minutes watched. So they do minutes watched now. I know I just saw one stat. The Bear hit was 2 billion, and people were saying
But
that's phenomenal.
But
That
you
they
got to
got 2
remember
billion.
though, but this is always and this is what messes up how people analyze these analytics, is that the Bear dropped every single episode at once. So yeah, it got 2 billion, but that's because there was 10 episodes to watch. So when you break it down by episode, did that one episode of The Acolyte
Oh,
actually get
I'm
more
not saying the
viewers?
Bear is better than the Acolyte.
No,
I'm
no,
just
no,
saying.
no.
I'm just saying the Bear is people said was phenomenal. The comments
Yeah.
I'm seeing here is they're saying Acolyte's pretty good too. With that number is a pretty good number.
Yeah,
So we
no,
got to learn what these numbers mean, and then we'll know. So
I don't care what the hell it was that you used as the example, whether it's the bear or whether it's Barney the dinosaur. But my point being is, yeah, it had 2 billion, but you had how many people watch? Like, you got to divide that by 10 episodes, because like I said, 10 episodes dropped, not just one. So yeah, okay, so say I'm just throwing numbers out of my ass because I don't remember what you said, but say, okay, well, the Acolyte only had 250 million views, whereas the Bear had 2 billion. But when you do the math, one episode of the Acolyte actually had more views than one episode of the Bear did, right? So now the Acolyte's not number 9. Now the Acolyte's number 1, and that's why you see so many people
you can cherry
am I making myself clear?
Yeah, you can cherry pick the data. But anyway, I mean this is a pro Acolyte headline, is what this is from the tone. It's from a Reddit site.
Yeah. What were the numbers again? Sorry, what was the numbers?
It said 232 million, and so it's the 9th most watched. So
okay.
I think being in the top 10 is probably pretty good. And that could be.
And then the Bear was 2 billion.
That could be. I saw it for 2 billion. I forget what the time frame was. I'll just go Bear streaming stats. I mean, the thing is about the Acolyte, that was the end of June, so that would have been, yeah, you would have 4 episodes that some people might have started watching it, but you would assume that most of it would be people watching the next episode, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. Okay, I know we're running out of time here, Master Johnny D. So I'm going to get into, because I saw more Acolyte to talk about. I'm not going to continue breaking down the episode, but I'm going to get into this Jedi Master Venestra. Okay.
Yes.
Because
with the whip lightsaber.
Yes, with the whip lightsaber. Okay, before I get into it, Kamir did tell Osha in the episode that he was a Jedi, and she was like, "You were a Jedi? How come I've never heard of you?" She's like, "You were a Jedi?" And he was like, "A long time ago." And she's like, "How come I've never heard of you?" And he's like, "It was a really long time ago."
So Kamir
said that to Osha, that yes,
that he
was
okay. So he's a lot older than he looks, is what he was implying.
Yes. Okay. And then, as we mentioned earlier, he's got the scars on his back that look like a whip. So it could be that this Venestra was his Jedi Master. But okay, here's what I've learned about Jedi Master Venestra. Okay, one, at the time of the Acolyte, she's 200 years old.
Venestra. Yeah. Okay.
She is one of the only characters on this show that is in all of the High Republic novels and comic books. She's the one character on the show that wasn't created specifically for the show. You can go back if you're to start reading the first High Republic stuff that came out. She was around during then, and she was the youngest Jedi Knight in history. She was a prodigy, and at the age of 15, she became a Jedi Master. Okay.
Wow. That's crazy.
Uh,
That's almost
she
too
all
crazy.
they reference in this episode about her getting sick going through hyperspace, and she's like, I don't get sick, I get unsettled. That's because in those comics and novels, she has visions of the future whenever she travels through hyperspace.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Also, a lot of people are saying that her character is completely different than it was. Okay, I'll get into this real quick.
Then again, because I've read that she's been in obviously books this is all from, and that they're kind of making her a bit darker. It seems.
Yes.
Then
Okay.
yes,
Well,
that's the
because
difference.
the books aren't done yet. Like that whole like they're in the final phase now. It was a 3-phase thing, and they are now in the final phase. And so where she is at this point now, this would be about 150 years before Acolyte, is she's become a Jedi way seeker, and Qui-Gon would be what many people would consider would be a Jedi way seeker. Have you ever heard of what a Jedi way seeker is?
No, it sounds familiar. I'm guessing you've told me once before, but tell me again, and
A
tell our
Jedi
viewers.
way seeker is someone that does not follow the rules and the laws of the High Council. A Jedi way seeker follows the will of the Force.
Ah, yes.
Much like Qui-Gon did, right? Like the High
Yeah.
Council was like, no, we can't train this boy. And like Qui-Gon's like, no, the Force is telling me, like, we got to train this kid, right? So she was one of these characters. And so that's where a lot of the people that have issues with where her character is in the show is like, well, now she's like an extension of the Jedi. Like she's no longer a Jedi way seeker, right? She's on Coruscant. She's all up in the arms and the politics and all of that stuff. And she also has that one line in the episode where her line after they're on because they go to the planet, she's there with Mog and a couple other Jedis, and she's doing what I call the Force Echo as they're walking around and seeing the bodies. She's hearing what happened. She's hearing the lightsabers, and she hears Master Saul say, "Osha, run!" Right, so she can hear what's happening, and then she asks the other Jedi, specifically this Master Nog, "What do you think happened here?" And he was like, well, these injuries are consistent with the lightsaber, but like how powerful would someone have to be able to do that? And then right away he's like, could it have been Master Saul? Did Master Saul kill all these people? And she didn't be like, no, it couldn't be Master Saul. That's crazy. Like, well, like it's like I got the impression that maybe she's going to use Master Saul as the excuse and blame this on him. Like she's trying to hide something.
Yeah.
She's the character that right away was like, we don't want to involve the Jedi High Council because we don't want our enemies to like use this against us. That's what she said in the first episode. And then this last episode, she's like not wanting to involve the Jedi Council because like what would happen if we found
she's
out
shifty.
that there's this.
She's coming across as shifty. I'll give you that much. Yeah.
So I'm okay. This is my over. I don't really have much more to say. Because you're asking where's this show going to go? I think the show is setting up how the Jedi become basically the Republic military, right? They're setting that up with like,
they got a whole season, then they got lots of time,
right?
They got lots of time.
But I also think that Khmer is going to be the first Knight of Ren, and that Venestra is actually going to be Darth Plagueis. She is going to end up being revealed because there was something, like I said, I haven't read all the High Republic stuff. They know, I don't know how they know the people that follow this stuff, but they say they know it ends with this one character dies and that they weren't sure how this character died. It may have been a Sith Lord. It may have been another Jedi. No one, like the story hasn't been told yet. I can't tell you how the people know this that I read talking about this. But yeah,
this is where they think it's going that route for whatever reason.
A little bit of it, and I'm kind of adopting it into my own because I think to get maximum effect of like the reveal of who the Sith Master is, it would be to use a character that has already been to all the fans that have been following all of this High Republic stuff, and at the end be like, well, this character that you've been following along is Darth Plagueis, and that he's the guy that, you know,
yeah,
takes like I think that would be a cool payoff in the end.
Yeah, well, I didn't even think about the fact that there could be another season. I don't know why I didn't think that. That which was you probably just not now. I realize you can't think like that. Like they're not gonna. Why would you do just one season of any of these shows? I mean, it hasn't been done before, and I don't think they're gonna do it again. So now I realize, oh, they have tons more time. They gotta improve the writing or something. I don't think I can handle much more of this. Well, whatever. I'll watch every single episode, but I mean, that last episode was I was having a hard time getting through it. So we'll see. Hopefully, it gets a bit more. It starts moving along. I see it was like a breather after the big exciting super battle, but yeah, like the misses with like the Weasel character and all that. There's a lot of competition for cool stuff out there right now. So I'm hoping they can tighten things up for the next season. We'll see how the next 2 episodes are.
Well, I suspect this next episode is probably not going to blow you away. To go back into the dual titles and how everything's been a dual title so far, and how I thought episode 4 and 5 was supposed to probably just be one episode, and that makes episode 3 is the only one that was a solo title, because it was Destiny was the title of episode 3, and that was the flashback episode. And to me, it obviously set up that this next episode is going to be another flashback episode. And I suspect that it's going to be called Fate to stick with the dual titles. We had Destiny in episode 3 for the first flashback, and now we're going to get the second flashback. It's going to be called Fate, and we're going to see everything that happened on that planet from the Jedi perspective and from May's perspective, because everything we saw.
Flashbacks could be good episodes. Flashbacks could be good episodes, right? As long as it's well executed and the writing makes sense and the acting's good, right?
Right.
So I'll give it. I'll go in and I'll go in every episode a fresh mind.
Fair enough.
We'll see how they do. I mean, they obviously have different people writing it, different people directing each episode, right? So.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I mean, for the record, I obviously enjoyed this episode a lot more than you did, but that is part of the reason why I want to do this and do Red 5 standing by, because we're not going to hate just for the sake of hating. There's nothing wrong with constructive criticism, right? And I think it could be talked about with valid arguments about why we did feel that something did work or why we did feel that something didn't work, without having to get into any of the creatives' personal whatever they're into. And like, I want to watch the show and judge it on the show and talk about the show and what we do like and what we don't like. And I don't know what else to say.
Yeah. That's kind of the strategy of this show. Unless the politics gets or unless we get crazy enough that we start getting more political in our crazy minds, that we start ranting like a lunatic, or we get more viewers that are like that and we just decide to sell out and do that kind of shit. But for now, we're going to keep it straight.
Yes, but
show me the money.
Show me the money.
All right. Well, Lewis, I think we got through 3 episodes. That was that was good. Thanks for leading us through that journey. Any other topics of interest for this episode?
I will just mention that if the rumors are to be believed, there is a casting call out right now for Ahsoka season 2. 2 of the characters that are looking to be recast one is a white male in the age range of 50, which will be the recast for Baylan Skoll.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. I think they should recast him and get. That was a good character.
The second character that they're recasting for is the mother. So if that is true, I mean, I'm all aboard
mother.
recasting
Who's the mother?
Baylan. Well, that gets into the gods of Mortis and the father,
yes,
and the daughter, and the son.
The daughter's son. Was there a mother in that Clone Wars episode, or was there just the father?
No, None of that was mentioned in the episode.
There's
Where
the
the mother,
statues, I thought.
there was the statues, yes.
But was there a mother in the Clone Wars cartoons? I thought it was just the father, the son, and the daughter.
In the cartoons, it was just the mother, the father, the son, and the daughter. Where the mother comes in is in the old expanded universe, where the mother ended up becoming the greatest threat to Luke Skywalker's Jedi Academy. And that Han and Leia's son, Jason Solo, sacrificed himself to the Force and became a being of pure light in order. They couldn't even kill the mother. He did that. He sacrificed himself just to trap her again, because she'd been trapped for hundreds and hundreds of years. So she ended up being the big villain for the Star Wars universe after Episode 6 and Palpatine died. Everything that the Star Wars universe did, that was the end game, and that was the last story that they told before Disney rebooted the canon.
Oh, I didn't realize that was the mother was associated with the father, the son, and the daughter.
The story of the father is the balance of the Force. The daughter represents the light side of the Force. The son represents the dark side of the Force, and the father keeps them in line, which represents he balance. However, they are immortal gods. And
so the father were the gods, like extended universe. Was that established before Filoni showed them in Clone Wars, or
you got to? Clone Wars was still Lucas.
It was still right? Extended universe. Got it. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
I thought it was before. Yeah, so when Disney bought it, that's when they kind of wiped out the EU a bit, but they're bringing some of it back.
Yeah, but so like Disney bought, so like the last couple of novels that would have been put out by Disney, but that was before they're like, okay, we're doing the reset now. So it's kind of like what they did with Clone Wars, where they gave that extra season to like finish up your storytelling to make the fans happy. But now we're just going to say none of that counts.
So the mother is like a big bad, and she's showing up in Ahsoka. So Ahsoka season 2 sounds like it's going to be pretty big deal.
Yes, and that they're going to dive into this Mortis stuff, which is that's what has me excited.
Okay, well, cool. That's good stuff.
And the only other bit of news I'll add that's not Star Wars is the first Avenger has officially been cast for Avengers 5. Do you want to know
first Avenger?
Yes.
Is the first Avenger Captain America, or is it somebody else?
No, like the first actor, the first Avenger. One official casting has been made for Avengers 5. Do you want to know who the official casting for Avengers 5 is?
Yes, of course.
Benedict Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange. Right now, He is the one and only guaranteed character / actor that we know will be in Avengers 5, because he's the only one that has officially signed the dotted line.
Well, that's great. He's a great actor, great character. Sounds good.
The rumor I heard is that Disney is waiting to see what happens with Captain America 4. They want to see if the audience is going to be willing to accept having a new character playing Captain America, to see if it's good reception for basically, if it makes like $1 billion, then we can expect a bunch of other, not recast, but like, let's make this person the new Iron Man, right? Let's make this person the new blah, blah, blah. So they're kind of using Captain America 4 as a barometer to see how much people are willing to go with that, or if we're just too stuck on Chris Evans being Captain America. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Well, cool. Good news. All right, Nuance. I think it's about time to wrap up. If you're all good with that.
Yeah, I got nothing else to share. Thanks for listening, everybody.
All right. So we'll be back. Let's try to do this after the next episode of the Acolytes. So thanks for hosting, Nuance, and thanks for listening, everybody. May the Force be with you. Nuance, have a great night.
You too, buddy.